Alright, top decks of the KC Cup. We got a few cool graphs, charts to look at here, and then go over what the actual top deck lists were. I thought this gives us a good overview of the metagame, though, where we're at right now. And if there is no ban list, this is the metagame we're going to be in for quite a bit going forward, until we get some new cards to change that. So, out of our top 10, we had a pair of Cyber Dragons, 2 Onomats, a Ritual Beast, a Lunalight, and a Thunder Dragon deck, as well as 3 players who didn't report, although one of them eventually did. That player had a Tech Genius, Cyber Dragon, and Resonator, running multiple decks, unlike these other 7 who just ran one deck. So, again, we had 2 players who didn't fully report. So no Resonator, no Harpies. Maybe those 2 players ran it, but yeah, you can see here Cyber Dragon taking the first place overall. We'll show that deck list in a moment. But yeah, I don't think people expected Sydra's to be the top performing deck here, and for Harpies not to have multiple in there. But yeah, I think a lot of people were just fighting against Harpies in the final day, really teching for that deck. We'll look here at the top 32. I apologize for the small text. I'll make it bigger the next time we do one of these. In our top 32, we had 5 Cyber Dragons, again, the top performing deck there, with 3 Onomats, and 3 Thunder Dragons, 3 Harpies, 2 Lunalights, 2 Resonators, 1 Hero, Magnet Warrior, Ritual Beast, and a Tech Genius deck. One of each of those. So yeah, pretty spread out even. Again, Cyber Dragon taking the most spots despite all the nerfs, despite all the hits over time. Still the best performing deck in this event. But you can see it's pretty spread out though. Harpies didn't dominate, Resonators didn't dominate. They did pretty good in there, but it's pretty even a performance from a lot of decks across the board, and you see a lot of things in there. I'm glad to see that we have a very diverse metagame right now, and I think this looks even better on the next paragraphs. I had to split this one into 2 because there's so many on here. When we look at the top 128, with this one, I did take everyone who ran multiple decks and included them all in here. And keep in mind, about something like a fourth of the players or a third of the players have not reported. So about a fourth of the players did not report their decks to Duel Links meta. So this is where all this information came from. So we don't have about a fourth of the deck list, but this is about 75% of them. So this gives us a pretty good idea of you know, what people were running in this event. And again, we got 17 Harpy Lady decks in the top 128. That's pretty good. It was a top performing deck overall among the top players when you look at the top 128 instead of the top 10 or 32. But a lot of those players did run multiple decks, so they didn't just run Harpies, they ran multiple decks. A few Cyber Dragon players did that as well, with 13 total players running it in the top 128, tying for the second spot with Thunder Dragons. So Cyber Dragon doing really good this weekend all the way through and through. Thunder Dragons did pretty good as well. Onomats managing to get 11 and Resonators at 10 out of the top 128. So fair representation and pretty equal across the board. Nothing is like, you know, overly dominating. Harpy a little bit better than anything else, but, you know, not overly so. And again, as we saw, if you look real quick on these pages, you know, it wasn't the top performing deck at all in 32 and didn't even have any top 10 spots. So it's a pretty good mix right now. Kind of reflects the tournaments we've seen. Triamid managed to get 7 decks in there, 6 Lunalights up in the top. I'm not surprised to see that. Some people might be, but there were a lot. I played a lot of Lunalight decks all weekend long. I finished just outside the top 500. I only played like 180 games. I didn't play as much as I wanted to, but it was still good enough to finish outside the top 500. And I played a lot of Lunalights all weekend long, so I'm not surprised to see that. 5 Shira Nui and 5 Tech Genius decks up there. Pretty good for those. 4 hero decks. 3 of those were kind of like the old school traditional heroes that we're used to. One of them was that sort of new double soldier XYZ hero deck that we see. So 4 hero decks total. We also had 3 Witchcrafters, 3 Waters, 3 Evil Eye decks up there. A pair of Goukis and a pair of Fire King. I feel like Fire King kind of underperformed at this point. I didn't expect them to be a top 5 deck, but I expected them to have more than 2 spots in there. I expected them to be better than, you know, outside the top 10. I'm barely inside the top 15. Magnet Warrior getting 1 though. Blackwings, Megalith, and Yosenju also getting 1. Yosenju also kind of disappointed. I would have thought Yosenju would have performed a little bit better this weekend as well, but kind of struggling there. And we have also a Crystron Mermail deck that we're going to show later on that managed to have some success here in this event. So some interesting decks there. Pretty good even spread, and we look at all of them. Oops, going the wrong way here. Gonna look at this thing as a whole here. You see all the different decks that we had. You know, it was a pretty good spread across the board. You know, look at the decks at the top. Again, nothing dominating too much. Nothing, you know, way overperforming any of the other decks. And we have, you know, a lot of different rogue decks that had success in this event. So I'm glad to see that we have a diverse metagame right now. We'll look at some of these deck lists here. Again, I mentioned earlier, first place, Cyber Dragon. What can you say? It's four monsters, a ton of spell cards, and a really good skill. Nothing unusual that we haven't seen from this deck in the last few weeks, or really, over the years. Using the skill, using the same spell and trap cards. Cyber Dragon just still having success. That skill is really good. The deck is still solid despite the banlist hits, and yep, Cyber Dragon's still winning. Don't have the second place deck, but third place we have an Onomat deck. Not too much out of the ordinary here, running 2 Sister, which is different than you can see the fourth place deck here, which chose to run 1 Sister and 1 Triamid. Yeah, just not too much different from these 2 Automotive decks from what we see. They're pretty standard, pretty staple. They get the job done. This is what we've been seeing in tournaments. We expect to see these decks up near the top. One thing we probably didn't expect to see in the top 5 though is Ritual Beast. This is the only Ritual Beast deck in the top 128. No other Ritual Beast managed to get there, but this one managed to get 5th place. Running Destiny Draw. Nothing different than what you see from Ritual Beast. Same core monster engine from Ritual Beast that we've seen since they've came out. Book of Moon and MST now instead of the Cyclones. But besides that, it's what you'd expect to see from a Ritual Beast deck from a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever they came out. Not much has changed. It's still running the same basic concept here, and it worked. It did well enough this weekend to get into the top 5. So congratulations to that player. Hat off to you in getting top 5 Ritual Beast. Absolutely love that deck. So glad to see it have success. Thunder Dragon had a lot of success this weekend. This is our 7th place deck. Destiny draws a skill here. Saw, I think, players using different skills over the course of the weekend. So for debate, which is the best Destiny draw, or the best Thunder Dragon skill to use? Is it D-Draw? Is it Allured by Darkness or Fiend Farewell? But D-Draw here managed to get into the top 10. Also running a single Caius in the deck. I like Caius as a removal monster. You guys know I love Monarchs. One of my favorite archetypes. Not my favorite, but definitely one of my favorites. So my first real competitive one. So glad to see people mixing that into decks here and there. Alright, Lunalights are not dead. They got top 10. They got a spot in the top 10 anyways. Using Triceratops as a tech card in here. That card can be really annoying for certain decks to get over. Some decks just cannot get over that card. And it just completely shuts them down from being able to finish you or OTK you that turn. And yeah, definitely a powerful card. And yeah, Lunalights, like I said, quite a few spots in the top 32 and a few spots in the top overall. So good to see for some players, I'm sure good to see that Lunalights are still a viable option. I'm sure other people are absolutely sick of them. I'm very sick of the whole not being able to target a monster thing and that whole situation there. And I don't hate Lunalights, so I just hate that interaction with the way that the Lunalights are. And Red Eyes have the same problem. They're just Red Eyes isn't very good. So, but Lunalights is obviously still pretty good. A deck that's really good though is Harpy Ladies. Harpy Lady had plenty of decks in the top 128. This is a 20 card version though, instead of the usual 22 card version. I think this was the best performing one that we had, that at least I think I'd seen posted anyways. Or one of them. Yeah, the interesting list though, going at the with only 20 cards instead of 22 here. I think there was 1 or 2 that may have been higher, but only 20 cards here. Still running the 2 Tretch, 3 Swallow's Nest, cutting back on the Perfumer to 2. I don't know if it's because he only had 2 Perfumer, because he wanted to be more consistent and more consistently open up with the Channeler, but yeah, 20 card Harpies, of course, doing what Harpies always does. Nothing special there. Nothing unusual with this list either. Magnet Warrior, top 32 list, the only Magnet Warrior I believe in the top 128 if I'm not mistaken. Managed to get a top 32 spot as well. So yeah, not much out of the ordinary here I don't think with Magnet Warrior. Is not a deck I'm overly familiar with, but one that's still managing to have success, so you should be familiar with it. Here's another deck that you need to be familiar with. It's not gone from the metagame. It's Shira Nui, alive and well. I gotta take a drink of water here, sorry guys. I'm recording multiple videos here. Now starting to get dry as a result. Anyways, Shira Nui is alive and well. You can't kill zombies, can't kill what's already dead. This is really trap dot deck with, annoying Shira Nui monsters. Doesn't matter how hard the banlist has hit this deck already, it's still doing well. We have to see going forward how much success this deck has as we go back to side deck formats and tournaments, but at least here on ladder, at least for the meantime, this deck is still making noise, and yeah, whether a lot of people are probably very frustrated about that. Some other people may be happy who have access to this deck still and still have something to do with all the deck that they invest a lot of gems or money into. So Here's another. This is a really spicy deck. So this one was from Luke Tyler. It got 62nd place. I'll link it in the description, the name and the link to all of these decks there. This is probably the spiciest deck that we had this week. This is one that fits perfectly in my spicy decks of the week videos. But this was, yeah, a Crystron Mermail deck. Yeah, Crystrons are still able to have success even with the banlist hits. They still have some firepower in their deck. Definitely a big brain deck, one you got to think quite a bit about when you make your plays. You can't just willy-nilly go in there not knowing what you're doing, or you're gonna struggle. So yeah, Crystrons still have some firepower here. I'm glad to see that they can have some success. I do like synchro decks, and I'm glad to see Mermails still able to do something. Wish we could see more Mermail decks and more them have a little bit more success than they do. Alright, next we have Witchcrafter. We had 3 Witchcrafters in the top 128 of this tournament. Glad to see Witchcrafters having success as well. This one running Grit in order to survive those OTK attacks. Besides that, it's a pretty small, just a pure Witchcrafter deck. We're not running Light Horns, no extra additional mill. We do have the Volcanic Wall in here, but besides the Volcanic Wall, not a lot of mill, just running this, the Witchcrafter monsters and just trying to get out Madame Vare and let that carry you. Yeah, Witchcrafters still alive and well, despite the banlist hits. Another deck that's been hit by the banlist a couple of times, Blackwings. Harpy Hunting Grounds, a skill here, of course, giving it, even with Harpies in the meta, still running that, but gives you a field spell in order to get the attack point boost. Nothing out of the ordinary here. We run Necro Valley as well as Ancient Fairy Dragon to get out the Necro Valley easily. 3 Book of Moon, Cosmics. The monster lineup's pretty standard. Well, for the most part, running 3 Zephyrs instead of running like 2 and then 1 of the other one. I don't know what decision on that one is, but yeah, no, Blackwing is pretty standard besides that, but what you expect, this was the only one again in the top 128. Another one of in the top 128, this is a Megalith deck. A deck I'm not particularly familiar with. One trap card, 1 spell card in here with the triple Senju. Besides that, it's all ritual monsters. We got triple Ben 10 in here as well. Plenty of ways to make rank 4s in here. Running 2 Steelswarm Roaches. Of course, that card is great for shutting down resonators, as well as a couple other decks in the metagame as well. So, yeah, Megaliths, we know they're a deck that there's always one. There's always that one Megalith deck that had success. It won, got first place, I think, in the KC Cup a couple times back. But there's always that one Megalith deck in there that makes top 128. It never fails. There's always one. Always one. I'm pretty sure it's the same person too. It might be the same person. Alright, then next we have an Evil Eye deck. There were 3 of these, I believe, again, in the top 128 here. I don't think there's anything too out of the ordinary with this deck as well. Level tuning is the skill. Running 2 Medusa. Yeah, and you're just doing the same nonsense, the same little, you can't target or destroy this with effects, and yeah, try to get over it. Little shenanigans that you expect to see from Evil Eye. Nothing out of the ordinary here. And then, last but not least, we have a Fire King deck, and this was kind of the disappointment of the weekend, I feel like. This is interesting, only running 3 of, so 1 Alistair, 1 Invocation, and not running the Battling Boxer Veil or a second Alistair at all, only 2 of. So, and also only running 1 of the 2 of. He runs 1 Treacherous, and that's it. There's no other Treacherous, no Churning, nothing else. So very, very interesting decision here to run this lineup here. Alright, but that is all for the KC Cup from this time around. Hopefully we'll get a few more of those decks that are still missing posted up over the next few days. But besides that, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day.